Brisbane, it's something called River Fire. And so it's the beginning of Brisbane Festival. And today we had the fighter jets flying through the city. We're called the River City here, and or the Brown Snake. It's this big brown, curly, windy river. And I'm on one of the pockets of it. And the Air Force fighter jets actually fly along the river at super low speed. It's so loud. They're going right past my place. The windows rattle, everything shakes. So it's a good thing that we weren't on then. And then we have a mega fireworks display and laser lights over the weekend. It's called River Fire. So it's pretty spectacular. Everyone comes into the city, and I'm right on the river on the boardwalk. So you can't move out the front of my place. Um, there's lots of people. So it's going to be a good weekend here. All right, we are today getting into my beloved Wealth Lighthouse content. So that and looking at you've all heard of the wealth spectrum, I'm sure, if you've been around Roger and the community for some time. And you've heard things like if you're in infrared or red or orange or yellow, green or blue, all the colors of the rainbow. And what that means from an emotional perspective and also the ways to move up from one level to the next. We're going to look at that today from the context of the clients that you're working with mostly. They might be at yellow level, they might be at green level. They're the two. We're actually going to focus on green level and how you move from yellow to green in terms of the teachings today. But first of all, we're going to do a little bit of a self-inquiry where we're at and what our own challenges and opportunities might be. So that's going to be a large portion of today's The Wealth Lighthouse, and then going into the do's and don'ts to actually move through those levels. I'm also going to introduce you to the 8 stages of the enterprise for when you do get your vector pack, if you haven't already. You can see what our little purple cards are in there. And that means, again, what it helps you to ascertain about your clients so that you know how to position the work that you're doing. So we have a pretty action-packed day ahead of us. Before we even get into that, I'm going to show you the whole canvas of the bits and pieces, or the puzzle as we call it, that you can start compiling your workshops and your programs with. Shows all the different bits that you're learning and some of the things that we're actually not going to go through in this program, but they're there in the manual. And that's like some exercises. Say there's like a car exercise, there's a potato exercise, different team engagement exercises that you might want to put into a workshop. So I'm going to show you what that puzzle looks like right after you guys all go into a breakout room and actually just for 5 minutes, Aditi's going to pop you into a breakout room. I'd love for you to share with each other what has been, what is the thing of your learnings that you're going to action first so far. So from all that we've done in the last 3 days, what is the actionable item? What does it mean for you? Why is it important and going to be impactful for you in your business? So 5 minutes, will be 6 by the time you come back with the countdown. So a couple of minutes each to share. Aditi, you got the rooms ready to go?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I'll see you on the other side. And just pause the video when they go into breakout rooms. First, gold star for first team back.
Yeah, because we finished discussion already. We are very clear.
Yeah, and you've probably been talking to each other a lot, right?
Yeah.
Being in the same group. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, I'm going to nominate, or actually, you can self-nominate. Uh, Either you'll open up and speak, or you'll open up and nominate someone else. Just to give a quick summary or a quick.
Hmm?
Oh, I think it's her internet. Let me just,
Donna's frozen.
yeah.
I can do
Let,
ours in 3 seconds. So Ross and Clara are both, it's reconnecting with the Wealth Dynamics system after being out of it for a couple of years. And for myself, it's getting my identity clear and simple. No tagline yet.
Okay. So are we going to, share individually right now without Donna?
let's wait for her. I have messaged her. Just give me like 1 or 2 minutes and then you'll see.
Yeah, fighter jets going right over on top of your house could be a, a bit of issue for the signal, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Doesn't the Wi-Fi swirl the other way around the other side of the universe or something?
She's back, she's back.
I'm back. Sorry, I am on Zoom all day and never does my internet go down. So we're now hotspotting from my phone. Thank goodness I have a big mobile plan. All right. So, did you hear anything I was saying about someone sharing?
Stephen?
We already
Yeah,
started
so I just did a
shouting,
quick one because
Oh, you did it? Great. Okay.
yeah, Ross and Clara are just reconnecting. Well, I think we all are reconnecting with the Wealth Dynamics system because we've been out of it for a couple of years and realizing how kind of good and sensible it is. But we need to reconnect. And myself, it's about getting clear on my identity.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. Okay. Next, did the Taiwan group go? I think that's what I was saying. No. Tina, do you want to share on behalf or someone to share?
I can share 3 of them or only one.
Just one's fine. Yeah, one.
One is fine. I think based on yesterday's discussion, I think King wants to review his value for his team to let everybody stay on the same page to move them to like now they are all orange, most of them. They want them because the orange people didn't truly know what's value are. So he wanna, base his value into his group to make everybody
Nice.
on the same page.
I love that. What I love from the Stephen Covey's Trust and Inspire work is the overarching principle is to bring out the greatness in others. And when you've identified, like you have great workers, which is what the orange level is, being able to help them move up to that yellow level where there's more expertise being recognized. They're maybe starting to take care of a team themselves, like a small team. And we'll see today what the 3 steps are, which apply to an individual. We are going to focus on the enterprise, but being able to actually even get your team to go onto the Genius U platform, do the profile and the spectrum test, and they'll get access to those micro degrees. Now they are in English, but we did have a lot of stuff translated into Chinese, so it might actually be there. Aditi, maybe you can check with Michelle when she comes online a little bit, just probably can answer us before we finish up what is already translated into Chinese.
Okay.
Thanks. Great. And who's the other group?
Was it us, Belly? I don't know.
Yes, it was.
Someone want to share? You're keeping us in suspense.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we discussed mainly how we can actually, what we already have done is picking bits and pieces already into the existing training, actually, some of the exercises and how important it is to create awareness. And Belly, you shared that it has been very helpful when you have created and structured your workshop, a new workshop, right? And Michael, you shared. I don't remember what you. Too early in the
Too
morning.
early in the morning. Knew you were going to say that.
Well,
All good. So it's okay. You didn't have to share from everyone. So that's nice. All right. Let's get into. Thank you for sharing though, everyone. Let me get my right little deck up here. Here we go. Nice. I'm going to master 2 screens today. You watch me. It's my end. So we are in session 4 and I have rejigged our flow a little bit. So we are, as I said, going to move on to the Wealth Lighthouse today and looking at from an enterprise perspective, what it means to be moving to green level from yellow, because that's what performance consultant is positioned at. That's where the teams hang out, green level and above. Now, that does mean that next week it looks somewhat similar to what I said earlier in the week. I've just moved this over. So next week is going to be all about teams, so much about teams and a lot of the exercises. So this week is a lot of the enterprise understanding, beginning to do some activities, but really this value and leverage piece is huge. We're going to see how that plays out now through the Wealth Lighthouse and so forth. But let's move on to something exciting. Now, also, Aditi, if you can just ask Melissa to send everybody a PDF of all the slides that we've done from this week.
Okay.
So day 1, 2, 3, and 4. So after today's session, you'll get a copy of all the slides here that I've been presenting. They will be in PDF, just so that you can go back over your notes. But we will have some decks for you, obviously, to help when you're creating your own presentations and so forth as well. So what you see in front of you is all of the bits and pieces that you're going to learn or are there as a resource in the manual in a puzzle structure that you can start kind of pulling, knowing where they each fit, right? So obviously we start with your personal intention, but when you're moving into groups, these are the 2 activities that bring presence and focus. So the anchoring success, it's where you're collecting the goals, you're compiling themes, you're really getting that collaborative participation starting to be unified with people. And it's visual, right? If you're doing it online, do set up boards. You can probably set them up to look prettier than what I have, but and branded and so forth. But otherwise, you do it visually with the sticky note. And find that's also in that presence and focus. Sometimes you will do both. You're doing a longer workshop or retreat with your clients, or otherwise you might just choose one of those. Okay. You might just want to choose the anchoring success and then come straight on into the bigger ones like value and leverage, once you've gone through some wealth dynamics type exercises. Or you might want to go, no, we've done a lot of work together already, or I know what their problems are. We're straight into identifying blocks to flow. So you can do those. Moving over, we've got the individual perspective. Okay, so this is individuals knowing thyself and starting to understand the concepts of trust and flow. Here, we've gone through the Genius Bar exercise. Remember, you can adapt that. You don't have to do Genius Bar. You can choose a thing, a project that's going to be more relatable to your clients, but you understand the way that it's done and it's run and what some of the key insights are that you're looking for, right? We're looking for the natural style and the natural approach of people to become very evident. Where possible, put people in their profile groups and maybe have a group that's very well balanced and just see what the difference is. Depends on the number of people that you have. The other two that are on here, the potato exercise and the car exercise, now they are in the manual. The potato exercise, I can bring it up on mine. We're going to circle back as to a little bit more on these, but let me just bring up the manual for a second. The potato exercise is fun. I used to think it was a bit daggy, but honestly, every time I do it, people laugh, they have a good time. It adds like some humor in, even for the most senior C-suite group of people that I've done this. It's starting to, it's introducing to people that the concept of the radio. So it's, the joke is like your brain looks like a potato, but then we turn it into actually being a radio, which is identifying that we all can tune into a different frequency. You know, the old analog dials where you had to tune it in, or even digital now, right? So if my frequency, if what I love is pop music, right? But I'm tuned into a heavy metal radio station, it's like, that's not going to be enjoyable for me. And I might be going, but I want to, or maybe I love classical, but I'm tuned into the heavy metal, or I'm surrounded by the heavy metal station. It's very hard to stay in that classical music playing in your mind, right? So it starts to introduce how we naturally tune into certain frequencies, and also the impact of our environment and the impact of how you set up your space and your energy. Fascinating for me. I actually have earmarked this to do with the client when I go back and see them, because what has happened in their office, they had the sales team were in one office, the other managers of like production and machinery had their own individual offices, but then the admin and the accounts team were in another big office, side by side, but separated by a wall. And one day the CEO, actually when I was there on site, he said there's too much disconnect between the teams, and his remedy was to pull the wall down. And it was like, okay, I like the idea and I don't like the idea. So we kind of bantered it. The reason being, accounts people predominantly need a little bit quieter space to focus and think and do their work, right? Anyway, I came back and 2 months later, he sent me a video of how he'd knocked the wall down. And it's now, there's a little bit of an impact on his accounts team because it's so noisy. The sales team are so noisy and excited in a great way. I love it. But the accounts team are sitting in there as well. So it's a little hard for them to kind of concentrate on what they're doing. So we're going to introduce this. The wall is not going back up. So it's about how can you support people to do what they need to do. At times, does, the finance manager actually need to go and sit in an office, even with her headphones on, for 3 hours to complete something that's super important, focus to detail, right? So I know I'm going to run this one. And the reason I want to run this exercise is for their self-realization, their own, okay, rather than it being me telling them this is the problem, right? I can say this is like the danger zone, but there's nothing like self-realization, right? It's not called other people realization, it's self-realization. So these activities actually help people to get it themselves. So that's the potato exercise. It goes through there. As I said, yarn, amazing facilitation guides on everything. Then we have a car exercise, and this one you need to do it in a large group. It really, you can do it in smaller groups, but it's best to do it in a bigger group. It is so much fun as well. It's really getting people to, it's a game where they're talking about their ideal car that they want. So if they could have their car of their dreams, what would they buy with it? They chat in their group, and then you actually get some people to come up the front. You choose different people after they've done a group to come up the front. And what you do there is you keep layering it on. It's like, great, you're only 24 hours away from receiving your dream car. Now you just need to pass the exam. And it's like, how are you going to go about passing the test? What's your learning strategy going to be? Each profile, remember, each of the 4 geniuses learn differently. So you start to see things there like, you might group them by the 4 energy types rather than the 8 profiles if the group is somewhat smaller. But your blaze energies will be, well, I'll just find someone who can show me how, how it all works and how to do it. Versus your dynamo energies will, they'll maybe find someone who can go incognito as them. Steels are going to read that manual, practice, or probably find a practice exam somewhere and do that. So it layers this on. There's more layers. The next question is, you're in the dealership and so forth. Now there's a slur campaign that's going on to turn your customers away from you. Well, because today you own the actual dealership, right? And it goes into what are you going to do to basically make sure that your customers keep coming. And then it goes into, I think that's the main one. Yeah, it's just hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. And you can even add your own questions, but it's normally more than enough. Even at the first question where it's about how are you going to learn, like how are you going to get the car set up for you? Again, dynamos will be like, I'm just going to get in and start pushing buttons. Our steels will be, I will read the manual from top to bottom, and I will sit in the car and I will play with that. So it's super, super fun to do. Great to do, again, when you've got 15 people or more in that. So again, it's in there. I suggest the first time you run these, don't be afraid to kind of print this part of the manual and have it with you as you're guiding people through it. It's okay to do that because there are important nuances. Like in some of these and also in some of the later exercises, there's nuances that, because you know what's going to happen, you don't want to give away what's going to happen. So there's things that you actually don't want to say. So that facilitation guide goes through all of that. It's like, position it like this, ask this question. Don't let them know about XYZ, right? So if you are a creator where we're often off the cuff on things, try and stick to the script until you really learn how it flows, okay? Because otherwise what will happen is it will fall flat. And you don't want something to fall flat. This is all about getting the team engaged and also the team respecting you for your ability to move them in and out of different states and also through different levels of awareness, right? So they've got to get the experience as it's intended. The guide will help you do that. Trust me, I've done it the way where I've added lib too much and it's like gone, that was not so good. So that kind of brings us to here. Then if you're doing a big workshop, like say 2 days, this would be from that. It's like they've had an experience about different profiles now, right? Through these activities. Now you give them a bit more of the theoretical context of it. And this is where you will unpack the square. You will deliver the wealth dynamics or the talent dynamics square. They're the 4 energies, the profiles, their strengths, the action, the thinking dynamics, examples of roles, and showing how it can be complementary. I always make fun of myself. It puts people at ease. I'm like, yeah, as a creator, this is what I've done, or this is where my weakness is, and I will give examples of it. And it just puts people a lot more at ease to speak about themselves. I know some cultures are more guarded, and so I do find when you can be humble to, bring some lightness to your own weaknesses, then others tend to see, okay, this is not about judging. This is not about right or wrong. This is actually about where we're in flow and where we're not in flow, where our greatest strengths are. And remember, the whole principle is go to work on your strengths, not your weaknesses. Yeah, so all of your examples should be almost positioning where you're then the hero of your own story, because when you realized that you should stop doing customer service stuff and hand that to someone else, everything got better, more value in the business. Or when you're this Blaze profile and you got a bookkeeper on and someone in admin to help you get organized and take care of the numbers and let you know, where your money is at, things changed. So make sure you're always the hero in the story. Don't lie. So, get your house in order somewhat, but find your experiences that you can share. So there's quite a lot just in that, right? There's a lot that you can deliver in a short session. You can pick one activity or something. If you're doing this inside your own company, you can do things in like half-day kind of meets or retreats as well. Or maybe you're taking your team off site. If you're going to do big workshops inside of your organization or even for clients, I would suggest trying to get them off site unless they have a space like a boardroom or a room that you can use where they're not going to be distracted by the phones ringing and so forth. I have some clients that we really only ever do offsite retreats, either 1 day or 3 day. And I have other clients, if I'm there doing a transformation project for a longer period, I tend to do it on site. They have a big boardroom. We pull in certain groups. There's times when everyone is in. There's times when just certain teams are in, or certain, maybe it's executive team versus then we might have the sales team. And that one we do on site so that the CEO can also pop in and out of the relative sessions for him as well. So there's a lot there. Then we move on to the enterprise dynamics. So shifting from an individual perspective to the enterprise perspective. And what is that primary purpose of an enterprise? It starts to introduce here the value and leverage, right? What are the different ways to increase value and leverage in a business? Through products and services, that innovation side, through customer service, lifetime value of your customer, getting them to come back and repeat buy, leverage through the magnify or the multiply approaches. And that also introduces trust and flow. So the more value that you have, the more trusted you are. And this is where, remember, it's about who determines if something is of value. It's the marketplace, right? It's not us. Sorry, creators, but it's not you. Creators like to go, this thing is of so much value. And it's like, well, let's see, right? The whole proof of concept is the market is going to tell us whether they think it's of value. And so that's why it's so important when you go through, the customer promise. Who is your ideal avatar? What are their problems? What are you promising them that you will help them? Problem you'll help fix, a solution that you're going to give them, or, just that next logical step of the thing that they must have because they love and adore your brand and what your products are. So enterprise, value and leverage, trust and flow, and you're introducing that at those 3 levels, corporate, team, and personal, really to position context there. And this is where I also personally, it's my clients, if they hear it once, they hear it 100 times. I will say there are no team problems, there are only leadership problems. All the way through to there are no problems, there are only other people problems, there are only leadership problems. Meaning in an enterprise, it is the job of the leaders to solve the problems, to unblock blocks to flow, to identify what really is going on and what is the strategy that's going to move the needle, that's going to, get them back, the company back into flow. Maybe that means back into higher revenue, back into greater profit, projects actually being completed. But putting it in the context of those 3 levels starts for people to see, oh, there's these different levels of responsibility. I also, even at an individual level, can't just sit there and blame everyone else. It's where do we all fit into that? So we have got up to this point so far, not this bottom box, but kind of, go around there. You actually have touched on all of that. Now, we haven't redone the Wealth Dynamics Square because you are all flow consultants. We will bring that in a lot more when we do the team stuff next week. and then also in our presentations as well. So there's a lot you've actually already covered, right, in 3 days. Believe it or not. And then this is all the stuff that we're actually going to be going through next week. We won't be going through PSR, but we'll be going through these. So seeing that there, I just want to come to everyone, and also why it's important that we get these slides too, so that you can start looking at that. It's probably going to be your most viewed slide in the deck for a while, so that you can start unpacking what you want your programs to look like. So just from what I've shared there on that one slide, I'm going to open up to anyone. Comments. Was that useful? What has that helped you to see?
I think that's fantastic because it helps set the context. And if you have the bigger idea of where you're going in the workshop, it's easier to lead others down that pathway. So that's really good.
Yeah. I mean, if your workshops aren't well designed with intent for every exercise, it just becomes a feel-good moment that, you know, it's a bit like going to a Tony Robbins concert and then not having the consistency afterwards to make sure the change sticks. Yeah. Love Tony Robbins, but Clara's asked, at what point do the team members do assessment and get their results? I always make sure it's done a few days before I run a bigger workshop. Kind of get guided by the CEO as well. I have done it a week in advance for some, because just to give them time to look through it. Yeah, so anywhere from like a few days to a week or so beforehand is ideal. When you are issuing the tokens, I think you can say whether they get a copy of the report or not. Or am I thinking about PSR? I think they get the copy. You want them to get the copy. You want them to start thinking about it. Plus, if you're going to do a Teams profile, you need enough time to be able to put that Teams profile together. Have I done it the morning of? Yeah, sometimes when we're like still getting reports in. But I also know this work inside out, right? And just getting the report there, I can kind of do it on the spot. You want to give yourself time to prep, to think about how you're going to explain it and what it is indicating, right? Who else? What has what is that highlighted for you, that slide I just showed?
Can I just ask a question, follow my previous question? So the report includes a lot of theory, explains all the profiles, everything. Isn't that a spoiler if afterwards you're going to do so? You know, one of the things I enjoyed about doing some of the exercises to start with is that we sort of go with an open mind. Yeah, we didn't have the reminder of all the little details. If the person has just got the report, they read all about all the details, and then they made their own judgments on what they don't know. And I think that would affect that dynamic. I don't know. I've never run a workshop, so I'm just talking from what I think will happen.
In the 500 individual profile reports that I personally have done, together with probably another 300 or 400 throughout all of our workshops, like iLabs and more than that, you know, masters and all of the Crystal Circle members, everything. No, it doesn't. Trust me. Very few people actually will sit and read it to the detail when they get it that you think. They will skim over it. They will particularly like the summary page of where it's strengths and weaknesses about themselves. not a lot of people will go and read a lot more. Now, even if they do, when it comes to doing the exercises, we're creatures of habit, right? So majority of people, I would say 80% minimum of people will still show either in words or actions what their current behavior has been without that level of awareness you're about to unlock in them. So no, I mean, I've had some that go, this is what I see now, what it meant like for Lords and but no, it never ruins the experience ever. Michael and Linda, you've done, as you shared, like 1,000. What's your take on that?
I was just saying that no, it's extremely few who do read all the nitty-gritty. However, there is one profile that is it never hits wrong. So the profile that always says this is, I totally disagree with the profile.
I know which
This is
one you're
not
going to
me.
say.
The only profile that might have been reading the report into the nitty-gritty.
Hang on, is there
They do
anyone
this.
here in that profile? No, there's not.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But they do disagree. This is not me, and they become very defensive.
So don't tell people
Yes.
yet. No, yeah, let people type in the chat who it's going to be. What profile do you think that is? We're not picking on them. This is just a moment of
It's just a
observation.
observation, exactly.
Bally says creator. Ross says accumulator. What do you mean, Bally? We're never wrong. Come on, put your responses in, everyone. Don't think too much. What do you feel? Stephen says a lord. Oh my lord. We've kind of given it away that there's no one on the call in that profile. Well, that's if we're in tune, Linda. So,
Yep.
all right, I'll let you go. The others aren't typing in.
Well, I give the reward goes to Stephen. I don't think that I've had
You did say you
any-
gave it away, so I was just working out which one. I just I said I got a support worker, and she did the test, came out a mechanic, and she's like, "No, that's weird. I didn't think I'd be a mechanic." And then I said, "Well, as you're going through the stuff with me, why don't I'll give you a token for the talent dynamics one as well, so you can see how the wording is different." So she did that, and then she came out even more mechanic, and so we were just laughing about that. But it's quite funny because you just don't. For me, it's the test that shows you what you didn't know about yourself, whereas all these Myers-Briggs and that just kind of pat you on the back and already confirm what you know. Whereas this is the only one I know that actually provides this amazing value.
I think to me, what I have discovered is I think that, I mean, everyone we have a great integrity, but the lords have extremely high integrity. And if someone put them, in kind of a box and boxing them in, they do not like that. So my experience is when bringing the feedback and the report to a lord, you need to kind of, now this is not how you always are. We always are a mix. You kind of need to,
Because it says they're not sociable and all sorts, and yet some of my biggest partying friends are Lord profiles.
well,
It's more that extrovert, right? So what I find with Lord profiles, and I actually had at a team retreat, we did a 3-day retreat for a client. I had the CTO, so he was Chief Technology Officer, pull me aside and say at the very beginning, Donna, I know you're going to talk a lot about the profiles. The CEO has said what we're doing and I just want you to know that I'm not on board with how it's possible to answer 25 questions and get an insight into someone. And he was like letting me know he was not happy about it. And we're about to run 3-day retreat, right, with 20 of their top leaders, and he was CTO. He's leader of the majority of the people in the room because it's a SaaS company. And so it was pretty quick for him to realize, actually, when I observe other people, I can see how true it is. And so then he was able to kind of go, oh, so maybe it is true for me as well. So yeah, our judgy lords who I adore, let them judge other people and then they'll get their own observation back. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move on from that, but I wanted to share that slide with you because you can start kind of putting the pieces into play as we go through this as well. So here's what we're going to do next. Let me share my screen. All right, we are going to move into the Wealth Lighthouse. I love the Wealth Dynamics profiles and I love the Wealth Lighthouse. So who here on the call, tell me, actually, give me a score out of 10. 10 out of 10 is absolutely, I can get up in front of people right now and explain the Wealth Lighthouse with confidence and clarity. That's a 10. And 1 is, no, it exists, but I'm not really sure about it. Where are you in your level of confidence and clarity as to what the Wealth Lighthouse is all about? Okay, awesome. And we've got some 2s, 7, 8, 2, 8, 5 to 6. Make that one 5.5, maybe 8, 8. Okay, cool. So room for improvement for everyone. And some are going to get some bigger ahas than others. So let's take a bit of a whistle-stop tour around the Wealth Lighthouse. So if the Wealth Dynamics profiles are about what position are you playing on the field, the Wealth Lighthouse is what level are you playing at? You think of sports, right? When you're in sports, there's normally like the World Cup level. There's the National League level. There's maybe your state level. There's your local town or your local area, right? Level. There's maybe the social, the social level. And then there's even those that maybe don't play but observe. They're in the grandstand rather than on the field. And there's maybe those that want to do it, but have all the reasons under the sun why not to. So profiles are what position you're playing. Wealth Lighthouse or Wealth Spectrum, you can call it either, it's the same, is what level are you playing at? There's 9 levels and 3 prisms. So when we look at the way that Roger has drawn this as such is the first level, infrared and victim, it's actually under the ground, right? So this thick piece here represents the ground, and infrared is kind of under the ground. And when you start delving more into what does the infrared level look like and feel like, it feels like that. You're in the basement, there's no windows. It's hard to kind of to see what the direction should be, right? What direction should we take? Down there often on our own, isolated, without people, trying to go, gosh, how do I get up to that next level? So what I love with the Lighthouse is that Roger has actually, for each level, said, These are the three things, the three strategies that will move you from one level to the next. And we'll see what those are in a second. Then we move up to, the levels 2 and 3, which is the remaining two in our foundation prism. We'll have a look at those in a moment. 4, 5, and 6, which is our enterprise prism. This is where business is at play here. And then 7, 8, 9, or 7 and 8, it's our indigo and violet. And 9 is the home of the legends, right? Often they're not alive. These are, they might be alive, but often the ones we recognize are not as well. So let's have a look at what the three prisms are. It's important to know these. Starting with the foundation prism, this is all about personal flow and personal impact. It is how well an individual can master the wealth flowing through their life. Okay, their ability to create an abundant flow of value and money through their life, regardless of the market conditions. Now, this maybe feels a little bit more wobbly than ever before in the world. But primarily, if you have a job, you work for someone else, you're not as impacted by the market, or you're not the front line that's impacted by the market, right? Companies will generally make sure that their employees are paid. Okay, so the individual can show up. Okay, sales were down this month in the company, but I'm still going to get my pay, right? I'm still going to take home the paycheck. I'm still going to get my contract. It doesn't matter if sales are down 20% or up 50%, right? Genuinely, that's the way it works. Now, some small businesses, maybe not. Anyone that has been a business owner that has employed team, what do they stress about? Can I make wages? There is always a point in the business owner's life, some point in time, they've gone, oh my gosh, how am I going to make wages this month or this week? At an individual level, you're more protected from that. We have seen things like COVID. That was not the case. There was mass layoffs, right? We've got the whole thing of AI coming in now, and automations and more efficiencies. And there's all this talk about people losing their jobs and so forth. There's an untruth in that, and there's truth in it as well. So at a personal level, we need to take responsibility for, okay, I need to make sure that I'm okay and making the most from the money that I receive in what I'm currently doing to ensure that there's food on the table, there's a roof over the head, and so forth. As we move up to the enterprise prism, this is where it's about market flow. And again, business impact versus personal impact. The enterprise prism, this is where it is all about mastering wealth flowing through the markets. Our ability to manage our investments and our enterprises effectively to flow value and money through our teams and through our markets. So this is where, you're starting to look at your message to the marketplace, not just the message on the CV to get the job, right? This is how are we attracting clients that are paying, so many clients that are paying you for your product or your service. If you are a consultant and you have one client, even if that client pays you, 100 and something thousand or more, you're essentially still in the foundation prism, right? But maybe even without some of the security that an employee might have. Because consultants, it's like they can end that contract, right? Quite easily, normally, unless you've got heavy terms and conditions and you've got some pockets to engage lawyers should it end prematurely. As an employee, you're often more protected, right? There's all sorts of rules and regulations. There is here in Australia anyway. I think in the UK it's the same. In South Africa, I know it's quite the same. It's quite heavy. I'm sure in Sweden it's probably similar. So, this is where we're shifting into, so what's my identity in the marketplace that is shining so bright that people will see me as an expert, or the small business that you have, if you're selling widgets and things, that the product has starting to get traction in the marketplace, that when people want that thing. Here in Brisbane, Brisbane is known, it's surpassed Melbourne now for the hub of restaurants and cafes. Man, do we have like a massive population of lycra wearing, matcha drinking humans. Absolutely. We have so many cafes, so many bakeries, so many restaurants. Like, you cannot walk the street without walking past 5 of them in one tiny block. So those new cafes, they need to be shining bright. They need to have an identity that makes them stand out for people wanting to come to them, because the competition is thick. This is the beginning of the enterprise prism. So if you're a coach and a consultant, it's what makes you different to everyone else. What's your message? What is it that you stand for? What's the thing that people are going to come and want to hear from you again and again, and have you help them solve a problem? Different than the vanilla, here's how you 10 times your business, or here's how you whatever ChatGPT wants to spit out, unless you are working with what your message and your story is. So identity is key here. The second part is when businesses start to have teams, right? You've kind of got your position in the market, and now you've got team coming on board. And the third level in that is where there tends to be the team, the business can operate almost without the CEO for a period of time. But individuals will start to have multiple businesses. There's replication happening, not just through the way that teams are beating to the same drum inside of one organization. You have multiple companies that you're taking the way that you build those enterprises, and it's similar through each of them. So where there's like a collective group, the culture is there. Virgin is known for this, right? So even when like Richard Branson would sell global licenses or sell off, entire, like Virgin Mobile is sold to a country, private owner in a country. What goes with it is a consulting agreement back to make sure that the culture and the way of operating inside the business is maintained according to the Virgin way of doing it. And so that is a blue level, essentially a blue level strategy, a blue level play to go, the way we do business in this entity is the way we do business over here, is the way we do business over here. And that's when you see, Roger does the same. So the way that when he acquires new companies, there's a merging process that needs to take place. Often those companies come with their own way of operating, their own way of doing things. And there's an integration that needs to take place to actually bring it all aligned, so that all the companies are beating to the same drum when it comes to how they're led and managed. So that's, like, you can see, whoa, enterprise prism, it's a huge amount in there, right? There's a lot in that. The alchemy prism is the societal level. This is mastering wealth flowing through our societies. This is where money itself is made, and rules of our markets are created. So I mean, often it was where governments would sit, right? Governments do sit at the Alchemy Prism, theoretically, they do. And I know some governments have leaders who are raping and pillaging the country for their own personal gains, right? And that's where you'll have someone who is like has access to the treasury at an alchemy level and is showing up with a foundation prism mindset, in all honesty, to manipulate that. On the positive side, you know, if this is where money itself is made, this is where we see like the Bitcoin coming in, you know, all the different means of money in its different shape and form. You know, it's no longer about the dollar, the fiat only at this level. This is about wealth and new currencies and new ways of doing things, new rules in the market that impact societies. You know, maybe sometimes it's kind of contained within a country. I know like China has a lot, and I'm not sure how much, like Taiwan, you guys have your own things still not linked into China. But, you know, and there's your own coins and so forth in there. But we see Bitcoin, it's now like everywhere, right? So it's not just about money. This is about impact as well. This is the home of leaving a legacy. You know, this is Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Mother Teresa. This is now where the likes of, say, like Steve Jobs and that the legends that created and changed the way that the rules of society happen. You know, this is where a lot of our AI stuff and that is starting to play. It's starting to impact societies, not just on a local level, but on a global level as well. So there's a lot through this Wealth Lighthouse, right? It's a choice to be at a certain level. It's also ideal for you, and we're going to have a look at where you are personally. You can self-reflect, you can share as much as you want or don't want. But we then want to start tuning into where are your clients? What level are your clients? You might go, well, I'm actually going to work with people that are in the foundation prism. I'm going to help them get into the flow more. There, it's not about going in and working with businesses and enterprises. Or if it is, it's for a certain purpose in there to help the individuals get more into flow. You might say, no, I'm all about the business side. We'll look at what the different levels of problems are as we go through this. But if your clients are in the business sector, it is much easier to still solve individual problems of the business owner rather than their big societal, I'm going to change the world problems, and even their business problems, first of all. If you can solve, I still would say I work with companies that are at green and blue level. When we look at the 8 stages of the enterprise soon, they're around at stage 5. They're at tradable entity level. That's the majority of my clients. I do also work with people that are like at green level or at brand attraction stage and starting to get the team. But majority of my clients are around that $10 to $20 million mark in terms of turnover. So they have quite a large team in there as well. Where was I going with that story? Sorry. Oh my gosh, is this my creative brain or my hormonal brain? I'm not sure some days. What I was saying, yes, is that I'm still solving the CEO's personal problems. First, my priority is to make them less stressed and help them make more money by showing them how to work with their team. So, and particularly as the external consultant, right? So my number one focus, even for my clients that I have big transformation projects on, and I'm in there a little bit more in the trenches on the ground with them, it's never in a way that I lose sight of my number one priority is being the support to the CEO. That's my choice. That's how I position myself in the marketplace and with my clients. So I'm always, that's my number one. I'm solving a personal problem for the CEO. Then we solve many business problems. It's always easier for me to attract clients when I can solve a personal problem for that big decision maker. If I go in trying to solve a business problem off the bat and I haven't yet either related it or proven that I can help them with their biggest problem, it's harder to kind of get the gigs in my personal experience. So we'll unpack that a little bit more as we go as well. Before I move on, just love for you to type in the chat, what prism are your ideal clients in? Foundation prism or enterprise prism? Yeah, absolutely, Stephen, from what you've been saying. Enterprise for Ross. What's interesting, Stephen, I'm just going to park this as a little food for thought for you. Foundation prism clients are often, I'm not going to say the hardest to work with, that's not where I'm going. It's the hardest to make a commercial business with if you're going to them direct. Often, once you reach a certain point where you've got your proof of concept, you're working with, a number of people, is when you want to start looking at who are the enterprise level organizations that I can partner with that have the foundation level people in their community, in their company. So your client becomes an enterprise level where they can pay you the bills, they can give you the contracts, it can roll out stuff, versus it being the individual themselves or a combination of both. So
Can I just say that I totally understand, but also I'm doing something for scale, creating the evergreen content, and I don't have to worry about the actual, I've got a very long runway on this, which is why I'm focusing on those there, because with doing that in the enterprise, whatever you do, strings are attached. And there's something key that I'm doing here, which is why it's taken 2 decades. That means, there's a guy who quoted me, he said that I was enabling the hippie generation. So, but yeah, I totally understand that, but there is a reason why. And I know that. I hesitated when I wrote foundation, but yeah.
So I got it. So Michael and Linda, I get why you've put foundation. As we go through this, I'm going to maybe challenge you on that your ideal person is probably sitting themselves in the enterprise prism at yellow level, even if they're working inside of an organization. So this is where it can get tricky, because sometimes it's like, we go, well, you've got to have your own company in order to be at yellow level or green level. You can actually be inside of a company at yellow level or green level and having the monetary remuneration as such as well. Orange level in the foundation, yes, they're the ones that maybe you can target as well, that want to have the investment strategies and so forth to create wealth, to get out of that time for money trap and employee. But I would, yeah, think about maybe it's both, that orange level and the yellow level, therefore your kind of foundation and enterprise. Clara, kind of what I'm talking about there. So solving the personal problem of the CEO is not the same. Like if we're going to talk apples and oranges and oranges. So a personal problem versus a business problem is one way of looking at it. So I'm solving the personal problem of enterprise level people. So, and particularly for me, green, blue. So personal problem of green and blue enterprise owners is my sweet spot for ideal clients. And normally it's those trying to go from green to blue. Okay, let's keep unpacking this a little bit more. This is where the colors start coming in. Again, infrared, red, orange, that's at the foundation prism. Infrared, this is victim mindset. Often, and it sounds a bit harsh, victim, but when you hear the language, most often it's not my fault. This always happens to me. That can be a truth, right? There are times when there is a true victim. The thing is about not staying there. The thing is about choosing to move on, even when there's personal situations of people being a victim. I was having this discussion in depth with a lady the other day who I know quite well, and there's a tragic story of abuse there, and she was genuinely a victim. But she's also chosen to not stay as a victim and live her life empowered, making choices, and happy. When it comes to money, it's the same thing, right? There are times when we can be a victim, but it's what's our choice to move on from that? What's our choice is how we're going to get the lessons and create it and start creating a different reality. But it can feel hard, right? Can it be hard moving on from that space? Because we're stuck. It feels like you've got the concrete boots on. We're going to unpack some of the emotional intelligence side. I will curb my desire to do so a little bit because you'll be here for 24 hours with me unpacking the emotional intelligence side of it. But victim mode, yes, you will see people will often say it's not my fault or if only, even to the point where, well, it was raining. I had a friend many years ago, and he was trying to launch his own business, and I love him, but we would often say, Scott, how'd you go on, achieving XYZ or, focusing on this? And he's like, no, I didn't get to it today. I'll do it tomorrow. And then you kind of check in a month because we're in like the little entrepreneurial community in Bali, and we were sharing what we were doing. And he'd be, no, I haven't got that done. I haven't got that done. And I spent some time with him once, and he's like, no, can I meet you like after lunch, Donna? I need to like go for a bike ride, and I need to go for a massage. And he needed to do all these things to try and get in the headspace of doing the work. right? And there's times when those things help, and there's times, and absolutely we need to self-care and self-nurture. But when it became an addiction to actually escape to those things every day or every second day versus sitting down and doing the duty, it's like that was the biggest shift for him. He had to shift his mindset from I've got to feel great in order to do things instead of how else can we shift our state quicker, right? Again, sorry, I'm going to move on because otherwise I will get stuck. Red level, survivor. Survivor is you're making enough. It's coming in, it's going out kind of the same, right? And when it comes in, you'll see survivors, they're so excited. They've just made $1,000 or they've made $10,000. They're so excited. Like everything is fantastic again. The spirits are high, they're happy. And then it goes out. It either goes out because it's paying bills or it goes out because they're like, they've got this money all of a sudden and now they go on a shopping spree. They can't seem to hold it. It's like there's a hole in the pocket, either by choices that they're remedying or just haven't yet, living beyond their means sometimes. Bless my niece, I'm trying to teach her that lesson. But being in constant survivor mode, it's not fun, right? And it's hard to move up to higher levels of consciousness to solve problems if you're constantly in survivor mode. Orange level on the spectrum, this is where it's the worker bees. It's people that have the skill set in it that they're providing to someone else in exchange for money. Often can require quite an amount of direction, less autonomous than at the yellow level where the players are. But at orange level, from a monetary perspective, there's a little bit of leftover cash, right? There's some discretionary cash there to do what you want with it. This is where Michael and Linda are like, well, hey, let us show you what you can do with that, right? They're out of survival mode. It means that they've got a little bit there that they can start investing more wisely. Other people will choose to spend it, have nothing to show for it. It's a personal choice, but this is where orange level, there starts to be some surplus there. Yellow level, even more so, right? We see that you're starting to own your value even more. Being able to communicate that into the marketplace or into the job market and get paid higher. There tends to be more of a surplus there, at least if you're using the same requirement to survive. What's interesting, as people move through the wealth spectrum, so does the number, buy a bigger house, more expensive car, fancier, shinier things. We up the lifestyle spend. The idea is until, again, not spend more than you have. Yellow levels that manage their money well will have more of a surplus available, right, to do what they choose with. Green level, again, this is at performer level. Green level is where the individuals in a business, if they're a business owner, they have moved from them being the special one to now having a special team. They've got a strong identity. Their business has a strong identity in the marketplace, and there is repetition of clients. There's a constant flow of clients coming. They still need to work at it. They can't take their foot off the pedal. The team can't take their foot off the pedal, but we've got money, we're employing people, we can start putting other strategies in. The individual at this level tends to start having different investments as well. Maybe they've got multiple investment properties. Maybe they've got different types of assets in their portfolio starting to happen here. What a lot of the wealth education and what I love what Michael and Linda are doing and what Roger's doing and different people in the GU community is actually, it's like, don't wait until you're at green and blue level. Actually be smart and wise with your money and your investment from a fringe level at least, so that you can start to have little by little your money making money. So it's not always about you making money. So green level here, this is where people are truly, let me go back. Yellow level is you're making money on your expertise often. Green is your team is making money. And blue level is where your money is making money. Okay. The money itself is making money. Maybe that is reflective of the enterprise is now at a position that you don't have to, let's say you want to get some capital injection for the business. You can go to the bank and they will lend you money. You can go to private equity firms and they will lend you money based on the trading sustainability of the business. You no longer have to put assets up as security. The blue level business are self-sustaining in that. Of course, private equity and VC and angel funds and all of that will at times put money into a business that's just starting, right? We might go, well, hang on, at yellow level, a business that's just starting, I can still attract money. Yeah, but it's not based on the business. It's normally based on their belief in the entrepreneur and the identity of that individual in their ability to make something work, right? Or it's actually that the individual is at, say, blue level. Take Richard Branson, for example. When he says, hey, we're going to, years and years ago, Virgin Galactic, we're going to take people into space. You can buy a ticket now for $250,000. I mean, he hadn't even got the rocket ship, the spaceship yet, right? But people were paying $250,000 for it because they believe in him and his ability to do what he says he's going to do. If I said, hey, give me $250,000 and I'm going to, build Brilliance Galactic and we'll go into space, you'd be a fool, right? You'd be an absolute fool. And so that is the difference of money being provided in at blue level based on the value that that individual has, the trust that that individual has. Okay, at yellow level, could I pitch and say, hey, someone give me 100,000 and I will turn it into XYZ in your business? Absolutely. Not a problem. So we'll unpack these as we go, but there's an individual level and then there's also the business as well. Then we move up to those top three. Blue conductor. Let me just position this one for a second. So the major shift here at conductor level is yellow level. It's like the solo artist. It's the musician that is singing and playing the guitar. If they stop, the music stops. So often in business, if you stop, the music stops. If you stop working, if you're employed at a high level position, there's normally a period of time which the money also stops flowing, right? Maybe you've got long service leave, you've got holidays, you've got benefits, whatever, but there'll be a point where it stops. At green level, this is the team. This is like the band, all playing in sync and harmony with each other. Kim was touching on wanting the team to sing the same song. That's what I say with my clients. When we're focusing on things like OKRs and goals and even the context of performance consultant and a common language is they're learning to sing from the same song sheet, that we're in sync. If you have a team that's out of sync, and it's just noisy, right? I mean, that's what I think heavy metal sounds like. If you're a heavy metal lover, you maybe go, no, it's got rhythm. But there's no harmony, there's no rhythm when a green level company is out of sync. At blue level, it's no longer you playing on the field or coaching the team and the teams to perform really well. And also it's like very customer focused, right? By the time you move to blue level, you're no longer facing the audience unless you're out there as the face of the business, attracting big deals, big partnership deals, or the top talent hires because they know you are the CEO of a business that they want to come and work for. But normally it's where you're starting to really connect with bigger players in the market. In terms of the team, so you're no longer facing the market from a customer perspective, you're turned around and you're facing your team. And it's a conductor that does, they just do this. They just wave their fingers and everyone plays in sync. They do that because they've taught their teams. They've got teams that are in rhythm. They've got teams that have strong players. They've got players that have workers to help them achieve things. So at blue level, this is where truly at blue level, that CEO tends to spend most of their time on the bigger picture strategy and vision and in conversation with their C-suite, in conversation with their CFO, their CTO, their head of ops, or maybe their marketing person, maybe with a board, if they have a board, either official or kind of board of advisors. They are not on the field playing the game. This is where at blue level, you might just actually be an investor in the company and you have a CEO in place. So one of my clients, he's currently the CEO of his company, but we are focusing on him moving out to be CEO of the global company and bringing a new CEO in. And he was, when we first started working together a year ago, he's like, yep, within 3 months, Donna. I was like, okay, all right. I said, so this is what I see it needs to happen within those 3 months. So we're here a year later, and it's only now starting to get that traction. He was really a green level performer with the aspiration to be at blue, but still at times having to go back in and be at yellow. So there was times when he would say, I'm having to write the sales proposals for clients. That's a yellow level activity. So, and this is what happens with the levels of the lighthouse. Sometimes you're solidly in one. Other times you're transitioning from one to the other. So it is like a legend, a roadmap as to where is there gaps at each level? What do we need to kind of go back and fill? And what are we aiming on to move up? So there's so much in the Wealth Lighthouse here. To sum up all that I've just said then, each level has got potential and limitations. Each level has got benefits of being there, but costs of being there too. So yellow level, the benefits of being there, where you're the player, you're the main attraction. There's often more value exchanged. There's freedom. You don't have a team yet. You can kind of work when you want to work. But the cost is that, well, if you stop, the music stops. Yeah, so there's benefits in autonomy, freedom, but it all also relates to you. Each level has that. There's certain emotions and psychology at each level. There's strategies to succeed at each level and move up to the next one. If you want to, some people say, I am more than happy to be at yellow level as a consultant. I would really challenge consultants, if they're going, I want to be at green level, then tell me what green level looks like and how you need that in order to do your mission and your purpose, because it's a hell of a lot different than being $1 million consultant at yellow level. Most consultants tend to tap out at about 350,000 at yellow level. You can get to $1 million at yellow level. You need to productize. You need to have the right level of clients as well. Normally, kind of that 350 up to $1 million mark, you're starting to have a small team. I know some consultants that have gone, yeah, we're totally like it. They haven't used green level, but they've communicated it in their language. Yeah, we're at $1 million. I'm like, okay, how many consultants do you have? We have 10. I'm like, each. It's not a lot each, right? So I'm like, then the issues they were having is so-and-so's got more and less and da-da-da. I'm like, oh, it sounds like it'd be to be a individual $100,000 consultant. Or I personally am currently at yellow level in my consulting business with a very strong and clear plan as to how to make it green. So I have made the choice that the Brilliance Co will be a green level business. And sometimes I question myself, but it excites me and that's my game plan. But there's nothing wrong with being a yellow level consultant as well. Here, every one of these, the value and the leverage strategies look different. We touched on this yesterday. If you're at yellow level, let's say if you're at red level, right? And you're starting to get your value together, you can see the potential of what can come. It's really about getting those first 10 clients. It's not about going to a big company and trying to secure a partnership with them. You know, the danger there is that can you actually deliver on what you're talking about? So it's like we move our way up through the lighthouse. We earn our stripes moving up. Can you be at a level and then drop down? Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. Both in your own enterprise or business and also if you are working for someone else as well, right? Many things can also drop an individual to a certain level. My previous life partner, he was definitely at blue level. He went through a messy divorce, not with me, with his first wife, that had him back in red survivor mode for a period of time. Did he get back up to green level quickly? Yes, because he knew the path, knew the journey, walked that before. The neurology is there, the connections are there, the pathways are kind of there. It's just getting one foot in front of the other and then kind of sprinting up. But if you've never gone there before, there is still, even if it's an accelerated move through the levels, there is still actually a natural progression through the levels. It doesn't mean you got to sit in each one for a super long period of time. You do see some companies move up quickly. The whole power of this is if you try and skip a level, it means that you're building a high rise and you're trying to do it by not deciding not to build the third floor, right? Or going, well, we're not going to have a third floor. We're not going to have a fourth floor. We're just going to have and not because of numerology or anything, like we just don't want to. We don't want to do that bit. That's too much hard work or, and I often hear people go, oh, I don't want to deal with a team. They want to go from level 3 player to level 5 conductor because both of those have freedom Both of those, you get to be the designer of what your life looks like because there's other people kind of, you know, showing up with the 9 to 5 or the hard work to get it done. So there's different game plans for each. I absolutely love this. This is the 3 steps. This is the final thing I'll do just before I pause for a moment. If you have people or yourself are in any of these levels, the way you move from infrared to red is measure your money, commit to conduct, do your duty. What does that mean? You can go onto the Genius U platform, go and do the free micro degrees that are on there, where there is an entire playbook for each one of these strategies. Aditi, maybe you can grab the link if you know how to do it, or otherwise I can find them later. But everyone should be on Genius U, and they're pretty easy to find. They're under the Genius Group micro degrees. If you're at red level, you know, money's coming in, money's going out, and you want to move to orange, you got to pinpoint your passions. You know, down here, it's not about doing your passion. That's going to keep you broke. This is about do what you need to do to make some money, right? I have at times when people say, I don't want to get a job. I just want to keep doing it myself, but then haven't yet cracked the code. It's like, why? Go and get a job and do, you know, and work on it. But if you can't pay the bills each month, it's very hard to move up. So red to orange is pinpoint your passions. We've got that test on Genius U as well. Set your standards. This is like, no, some hard conversations with ourselves. What am I prepared to declare is my new standard, my new way of operating? This is where good habits, good routines come in. Old habits that aren't serving us need to go. Old ways of thinking. Sometimes it's like, well, I've got to stop hanging out with that group of friends that's in victim mode. Doesn't mean I can't love them, have compassion for them. But if I'm starting to also fall into old behaviors that don't serve me well, then I need to really look at how often I show up there. Or am I going to get myself out of the quicksand first and then I can help others, right? I'm a sucker for helping others. My husband used to say, Donna, you would give away the roof over our head if I let you. You know, when I ever would find someone in need, I was always giving. But I didn't care whether it left me with nothing sometimes, because I was like, I'll just make more money. It's all right. They needed it more than me. Well, sometimes I wish I didn't do that because it backfired. But, anyway, that's stories for another day. Orange, moving to yellow. This is where it's about, you got to know who you are. Who are you? What do you stand for? What is it? What is your message that is going to be starting to attract, like a beacon of light, customers who want to work with you? Key partners maybe that want to work with you. So this is not only if you have your own business. I mean, this was me when I started working with Roger. So I had my own business, had a strong identity, and he was like, can you come into the business? And I can't even remember what our first project was. There's so many now. But it was coming in at this level because he had seen the work that I had done with others, and he wanted me to be able to do the same with him, and autonomously. I remember my very first meeting with Roger. He said, I remember he Skyped me and he said, can we talk about doing some work together? Can you come to Bali? I'm in Australia. Can you come to Bali on this date? Yeah, okay. So I went and we spent initially about an hour, and he's kind of downloaded all of the things that what his vision was, the different areas that he's like, I see that you could help me in any one of these 3, like which one kind of works for you. And I said, all right. And he's like, think about it. Let's meet tomorrow. I've got 20 minutes before I have to fly out somewhere. So I met him the next day. And I said, yeah, this is where I think. And we spent another 20 minutes where him going, yeah, okay, here's my extra thoughts on that. What do you think? I'm like, got it. Totally get it. Here's my thoughts. It was like speed conversation. He flew off. I flew home. He's like, great, send me your plan. That was it. 20-minute conversation, and then sent the plan. And then I think I next spoke to him 3 months after that. But those first 3 months was me implementing the plan. He was like, great, I like plan. I'm in agreement. Away you go. That was me coming in at yellow level to an organization, right? So, it was because of the identity. It was because of the proof of concept that I'd done with others in the marketplace. And so that's what this is really strong. And then monetizing your moment is how you make cash from that value that you're clear about, right? Moving from yellow to green, this is what we're going to continue focusing on today. Where does the time go? It's about establishing your enterprise and refining your rhythm and synchronizing your steps. We'll unpack this more, but this is where you're looking at the messy middle part of businesses. It's no longer just about sales and marketing and cash flow. This is about team. Who's doing what? Maybe we've got multiple promotions or projects on the go. We have to make sure everyone is in sync with each other. We need to make sure we're singing from the same song sheet, that our rhythm is there, that the CEO can't disappear for 6 months too early at that level, or they come back and go, hang on, you're all clear when I left, team. Now you're all off doing your own thing. Or not showing up at all. Where's so-and-so? Oh, no, he's decided he's going to work from home now, or he's, working different hours, or whatever it might be, or he's going to work on that project, and disarray starts happening. So these are the 3 steps to move from one level to the next. It's all there on Genius U and in the playbooks. When we did iLabs, that's where I first met Ross, it was a heavy focus on identify your identity, master your market, monetize your moment. We're looking at these 3 here. You may be sitting there going, well, this is great, but I don't want to deal with any of that with my clients, right? I just want to work on the people and the performance side. Great. Then take this as awareness for yourself and where you want to be, but also so that you know where your client's at. Because there's also a different language that they speak. People who are at yellow level in their business speak a very different language to those that are at blue level. I'm at yellow level in my business, but when I'm speaking with my clients that are at green and blue, and I have a lot of experience in businesses, myself being a big part of teams at green level and at blue level, I know the language. So when I'm speaking to the CEO that's transitioning from the one company to global CEO in his group, and we're restructuring all of those, we're talking a different ROI, and our conversations are, whilst they're an hour once a fortnight, they're kind of like the Roger 20-minute conversation. Download, I explain stuff, he can go and make the team make it happen, right? Versus at yellow level, I'm stepping people through the paint by numbers. This is how you do it. So it's very different. You need to know where your clients are at as to what type of language and conversations you're having with them as well. So I'm going to skip that one for now. Here's what we're going to do very quickly is go into the Miro board. And I'm going to get you to put some dots alongside of what level you're at and what level your clients are at. I felt like I spoke non-stop. Apologies. I was on a roll. I hope that has been insightful for you. So before we do go into those rooms, I'm going to just come around to some people and hear what your insight has been, rather than jump into breakout rooms. Let's just open up the mics here. I'm going to hear from 3 people, volunteers first. Who'd like to share? What did you just learn from that fire hose of a session about the Wealth Lighthouse?
I can start out.
Yeah, Michael.
Well, it's definitely it's easy to see the different levels because you understand it in when you talk to people and what kind of level they are. And I'm noticing when coming in, I see the lighthouse in front of me, and people want to become or want to be above what they actually are at, but they don't realize, and the steps they don't want to do the work. They rather see one or many steps above, and to understand where they're standing and the work they actually need to do, like the story you had shared with us as well. So for me, this is trying to find a way how to communicate with the different levels, or especially lower levels. I can also relate to when you've been up on a high level, it goes quicker to come there again if you went down. And to do that focus that, okay, I'm aware, okay, I'm dropping down to like yellow level or even red level. Okay, so what do? I just need to dip down there for a day or 2 or something like that. And then I know my pathway. I know what I'm supposed to do. So it kind of can help with my energy as well, how to do it, because it's different energies as well. And you notice that when you're talking to survivors, it's a very heavy energy, and it's easier energies up.
Yeah. And can I just add something to what you're saying, Michael? Do you remember when we're working with people on different levels, it is a lot of emotions in these different, especially in the lower levels. It's a lot of shame, it's a lot of guilt, it's a lot of, people have a lot of emotions around this. So it takes really a lot of respect, and the communication is extremely important. That is my lessons. And to yourself as well. I mean, when you are moving across different levels.
Yeah. Definitely. And each of the Wealth Spectrum playbooks has got the emotions in it. I've got slides up there for you as well, and we'll have a look at that a little bit later. There's so much the psychology that's in it, and it actually is the biggest thing that you need to be aware of and shift. Very hard to be making higher decisions if we're constantly thinking, oh my gosh, but I can't pay the bills this week, right? Okay, who else would like to share? What has been your insight? Sure. Let me reframe that. Who has got an insight from, more than one insight from what was just shared then? You can give me a wave.
I'll share something. Okay, Betty, go first. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I mean, there's so much that came out of that because I'm fairly new to this, and the way you explained it, the different prisms. One of them I'm already considering enterprise, so it was really clear, like that's kind of where I'm going with it. And the other thing that came out of it, I'm working with a lady who just sold her business, and she was at that kind of kind of would have been blue level where she was doing really well. Now she's gone into that kind of foundation prism, and the psychology and the emotions that are coming up. So it's really powerful. I was like, wow, that kind of explains where she's in this space. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. A good friend of mine is the CEO of, she's at green level. The business itself is probably at green blue. So, but she's still showing up very much at green. And she's like, Donna, I want to do what you do. I want to go and do consulting with lean manufacturing kind of side of things. I said, okay, cool. And she's like, yeah, like it should just be easy, right? And I'm like, well, it can be if you leverage off your credibility, but it's different doing a startup than coming in and taking over a business that's been a going concern. So anyway, I think she's probably going to come in to the Brilliance Co. and be a consultant and get all of my stuff, and then yes, that will be easier. Ross, you want to share as well?
I like the point that you made where you gave the example of your husband who had been at blue level and then dropped down and then was able to pick up again quickly because the steps had been there before. And when you were going through the steps before you even mentioned that example, I saw the same thing for myself because I've dropped down to infrared now. But I'm also looking at the steps going back up to yellow where I've been, and I'm thinking this is fairly easy. It'll be a lot simpler for me to climb because I've been in those spaces before. But what I noticed is compared to when I did iLab the first time, for instance, where I met you, that at that point in time I didn't know what those steps were like. And so I could understand it in theory, but being there in person and then recognizing what that looks like, the gap between those two is so much bigger than you initially think. Especially when I first understood in theory. I mean, the theory is not hard, but and doing the process itself also isn't necessarily hard. But looking at the difference between the two, having been there both before and now not there again, looking at that it's hard sometimes actually because you can explain the theory to someone who you're wanting to help grow, but you also know that you're not going to get them to have that same level of understanding until they've actually achieved those levels.
Well, and that's where mindset plays an even bigger role, right? Because every level will say the hardest level is going from, infrared to red. Well, then others will say, no, the hardest level is going from yellow to green. In the foundation prism, it's definitely mindset because it's actually not hard to get out of infrared. We just need to be humble and go and get a job, right? Or do something like that. I know sometimes it's not super easy to get a job, but it is easier actually to move out of infrared and red to orange. It's only our mindset and our ego it doesn't. So yeah, it's fascinating. So there are a lot of emotions that you'll see. I've also mapped out, so this is I have 7 levels of leadership and teams, but this is the individual talent levels and the pathways up, exactly what we just highlighted there. But I've pulled out from my volume of emotions that go through the levels, like where will people gain energy and where do they lose it at each level as well. So, at Survivor, it is about surviving, coping, getting caught in effort versus potential, too much navel gazing of who am I versus respect yourself, have some honor, get out there, take responsibility, get a job, make some money, and be around other people. Don't be in isolation, right? Gain energy from others. If someone's moving from, say my guy that's moving from green to blue, criticism and harshness, he's hugely critical of himself. Different to here, different to, I'm no good, what's my worth? This one's loaded differently. There can be drama and overstay. I mean, all these apply to just us as humans, right? It's not like you don't experience these unless you're at those levels, but these are ones that tend to re-emerge as the second act or the 10th act for an individual soul's evolution. So, here he has to truly speak from heart and mind. It's about conscious conversations, being calm, not being frustrated. Anyway, this goes through the chakras. There's a bunch of stuff there. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to do one final thing where you are just going and marking on the board what level you're at and what level your clients are at. Or if you're not yet working with clients, what level clients do you want to work with? Okay. And then we are going to jump over into, I'm going to show you some resources, and then we're going to actually look at what are the do's and don'ts about going to green level, right? So that you're starting to connect the dots with when you're doing next week's team performance exercises. We've got to have a team that we're doing it with, right? You're not going to do it with a solo player. You're going to do it with teams. So we're going to have a look at what's the setting and the environment of businesses with teams. Aditi, let's have 10 minutes break, stretch our legs. Thanks for persevering through that, everyone. It's clear to see I'm excited about the Wealth Lighthouse. I'll see you in 10 minutes. Minutes goes fast, doesn't it? We are in the last hour of what we're going to spend together. I don't know about you guys, but I can spend more time with you, not because I like the sound of my own voice, but because there's so much to go through, right? Anyone have any thoughts they would love to share before we start? Oh, well, thank you, Ross. Said great presentation. Stephen said the well is in your words. Was that something specific I said, or is that to everyone?
可以问问题吗？
That's out of Wink and Grow Rich. Because we're talking about how different profiles or the different levels in your language. And certainly, you know, when I'm sitting around the director's table with 12 other people in a multi-billion-dollar business, it's very different than, you know, when I'm speaking with people at infrared level.
Yeah.
So it's
100%.
the well is in your words. That's why they're called swords.
Got it. Okay. So, anyone else like to
缇娜，帮我
express
问
it?
可不可以问问题？
Okay, can we ask a question?
Yeah, Grace.
我想问说，就是那个，因为之前去年 Zack 跟 Ali 来上课的时候，他其实有带一个表格，就是不同的 number，然后不同的财富位阶。那这个 number 是怎么出来的？
Number.
就是那个不是有不同的财富位阶，会有不同的
收
数
入、净资产那些净现金流，你有看过那个图表吗，Tina？
哦，好像有，等一下哦，净资产。好，cause last year our team member went to Bali and has a same course, and then they bring back a form. That's a wealth lighthouse, but also has like numbers about net assets.
Mm-hmm.
We want to know what kind of a number is that, and then what's about the number.
So that is in every single Wealth Spectrum report. So if you have even got your own report, it will be in there. Let me just bring up the reports here. Um,
王一宇，你帮我把那个图传到那个他们给的那个英文版的那个图传到那个对话框。
Trying to open a report that's in the cloud. Hang on a sec. Aditi, can you also make sure that everyone gets the full Wealth Spectrum report pack?
Okay.
So, for example, this is the yellow level. I think what you're talking about.
Tina，你刚刚说我没有传到对话框了。
Oh, we sent the folder into the chat room already.
Oh, it's not in that report. I know what you mean. It's the power of zero, but with a graph. Sorry, you've put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is that used to be in all the reports. It's been a while since I've looked at this report. Okay, let me find another report.
因为我想要知道那个数字是怎么定义来的，为什么是那个数字？
Yeah, because we want to know how to define these numbers. How are we going? What's the standard for that?
Yeah, okay. So Aditi, if you can, I'll just share this here, but Aditi, if you can ask Michelle for where that is, because it used to be in all of the reports. So it's a guide, it's not definitive, right? Hence each block is a range, but essentially along here, if it's saying net assets under control, it's like, say you own a house worth $1 million but there is 200,000, 800,000 owing in debt on it. The net asset is 200,000. So it would be sitting, in this space here, in this range here. How this corresponds to the cash flow is either through my job, through what I draw from my business, or through assets that I own that return me some cash flow. If I am under 10,000 annually, then I'm definitely in this. I would say I'm probably in infrared, but it's this block here. So what it's saying is, okay, yellow level tends to be earning about 100,000 per year, and they can therefore start to be setting up their investment portfolio to have assets normally up to the range of 1 to 10 million. I think 10 million would be stretching it if you are a net assets, unless you've got an inheritance, or you've bought Bitcoin when it was cheap, or you've bought property that's had an absolute exorbitant capital growth that you've been able to realize. It's like, what's the potential earnings, right, of these levels? Does that make sense, Grace?
Because I think she want to know how are you going to set up, okay, what kind of a net assets is for red, which numbers is for green,
因
what's
为因为那个绿
You
色
mean
到
the
蓝
investment
色的那
strategy?
个距离是非常大的。
yeah.
就是绿色的话，它只要就是100万，然后那个净现值只要10K，是不是就可以在绿色了？可是如果要到蓝色的话，我的理解是，它要就是至少它的净现金流快要到100了，它才有办法到蓝色。那这个是怎么去定义说绿色跟蓝色
Yeah,
的差异？
because the green level according this form, so basically you only need probably 1 million, then you will be in green. But when you want to jump into blue, there will be a huge range of let's say 10 million. So how are you going to define these numbers and the net assets to get next step to next level? Do you know what I mean?
Not really, but I mean, that's what we're doing through the strategies, right? I am not going to tell you an investment strategy. That you can go to Roger or someone, Michael and Linda. If you're wanting to look at the portfolio, what I can help with a little bit, which is what we're doing now, is how do you get a business that is enabling you to earn the cash flow as well as the assets. So, for example, I just did for one of my clients, help them from a CFO perspective, what the value of their business is. So in the last 12 months, their business has gone from being valued at 2 million to 4 million, just as a normal 1 times multiplier, right? So he is drawing about 200,000 from the business, but he's keeping the rest of the money in the business. So the business is his asset.
Yes,
Now-
I think I didn't make myself clearly. I think we want to know every level that has a amount numbers for their net assets, right? But how are these figures determined?
可
So
是我
I mean,
我是想要知道它那个数字是怎么被
对，
定出
我现在在
来的。
问这个，对，我现在在问这个，
Do you want the strategy or how Roger came up with these numbers?
Yes.
What's
How did he come out with these numbers?
Well, I mean, you have to ask him directly. I don't know, but my interpretation of it is this is a fair indication of when someone is earning X amount of money, what range of net assets they will start to have in their possession if they have an investment strategy and aren't just blowing it all, right?
嗯
好
哼，
那我想要问另外一个问题，就是说，我们实际在做测验的时候，很多人他会测出他是黄色位阶的，但是不管他的 mindset 还是他的行为模式，还是他的状态，可能都是在红色或者是橘色或红外线的状态。那这样我们要怎么去处理这样的情形？
Okay. Another question is when we ask somebody to do the assessment online, the test online, the result will be probably yellow, but his behavior, his mindset, even his earning is obviously in red level. So we don't know what's the how will you make this result and how we're going to support this kind of person.
So do you think they're actually at red, but they're going to answer in a way that the report comes out yellow?
Yes.
Yeah, it's common. Michael was alluding to that earlier as well. The wealth spectrum is the one area that I would say people overstate where they actually are because they want to be higher. They want to be at another level. If that's the case, it's actually showing them what the levels truly mean, right? And coming back to the importance of the right strategy at the right time. As an example, often if we ask people where they're at, and they've got a small business, they might say, I'm at green level because there's them and a VA, like a virtual assistant, and they outsource to the same designer every now and then, and they outsource to the same marketing person to do some posts every now and then. That is not green level having a team. That is yellow level and having people help you. But people want to feel like they've got a team, right? And the true green level is when your team can take care of the business without you. And then you start having multiple teams. So it is very common grace for people to overstate with where they're at because they want to appear higher. I just actually educate what, and the reverse can happen. Sometimes I have people say that they're in, infrared, and they're not, right? But their mindset is constantly in there's never enough. But they have extra cash. They've got a sum of money that keeps increasing every month. The best thing is you educate people about the wealth spectrum. You teach it in a way that it's about truly identifying where you are, because when you know where you are, you can move through the levels by knowing the right strategy. Because when we try and skip levels, it doesn't work. If we try and do the right strategy at the wrong time, it doesn't work. Even people, say people that inherit a lot of money, if they might have a large net asset, net worth, they should be earning income off of that, right? Because assets generate income. When it's us individually, it's our skill set as an asset. It's our ability, our skill that's an asset. But when we start having other things, stock portfolios, properties, shares in businesses and so forth, They are the assets that will produce the income. If somebody has a large net asset pool, but isn't earning much revenue off of it, they're potentially investing in super high risk assets that will have a big win and other times, make a big loss. And that can have people go back into that infrared mode as well. Mindset wise, but also not having cash readily available. And sometimes even having to sell off parts of their asset portfolio to fund their everyday kind of living. So, does that make sense, Grace?
Yes, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Clara.
Okay, so where does this fit in our relationship with a client? And how does it work out in terms of if you're doing like a workshop for a group of clients not from the same company? So, you get 10 people from different companies. Because when I read this for the first time, it made perfect sense to me. And then I was in a workshop where, because I'm pivoting, so I have no clients to my new concept. So I'd be sort of red or infrared or whatever. And the people who I ended up with were sort of people who were starting their business and didn't even know what a business was. And I just sort of felt like it's just the skill part, like you were saying about your husband, he knew the way, so he knew how to progress afterwards, or ex-husband, sorry. So how to progress back to yellow, green, or whatever. So it seems to play an important part, because if you get people together that the only thing they have in common is how much money they have in the bank, which could be inherited or whatever.
I think I know where you're going with this. So it's a great question. First of all, you need to make a decision if it's appropriate for your clients to actually even talk about the wealth spectrum. If you're a business coach, yes, you want to dive deep into this, right? And there's a whole lot more. If you're doing it from the team and performance perspective, maybe leadership perspective, then it becomes a decision whether you do it or not. I, 80% of the time, don't do the wealth spectrum in a general team dynamics workshop, except for relating it to the leadership side. Like, are you operating, if you're at CEO level, you should be operating at conductor, right? Where you are working with your highest level C-suite. If you are at green level, you're what we call the performer, and you've got your team that you're leading and you're managing. I'm not asking them what their net worth is. I'm not asking them what their salaries are. Not doing that at all. I would actually change it and say it's 90% of the time I don't do the spectrum as I just spoke to you about all the monetary levels, other than saying that people at survivor mode end up with nothing, right? So when I did introduce it to the company, it was so that the leaders had a level of awareness, both to reset their expectations, to make sure they didn't have people that were in infrared in charge of the company or in charge of, the sales team, and also to have compassion for some of their, say, factory workers, that it's a hard road for them to get out of survivor mode. And so therefore, how can we as an enterprise support them through education? He made a decision. He pays everybody when there's a a bumper month in the company, he pays everyone a bonus month, not just the 13th month. They will get a 14th month and a 15th month. He has decided that's his value to try and help people out. It works and it doesn't work. Some people just waste it. They get drunk on it. They don't save any of it, and they're still coming back to him asking for advances on their salary. So, trial and error sometimes. I do have a very large client, the client that is the green going to blue, who specifically wants me to teach this. He's also very aware of all of Roger's concepts. He's the guy that has both me and Roger coaching him. He wants his C-suite team to know the wealth spectrum, to do the tests themselves, to go through it. We're a year on in coaching, and I've spent intimate time with that team at retreats and so forth. So there's a high trust there. I know that they'll be open to it. And it's not because I'm scared of it. I actually love it. You can tell. It's more, what purpose does it serve, right? We don't need to just actually tell every framework that we know to everyone. So that would be my long answer to your question, Clara, is what purpose is it going to fulfill? The way that I tend to, and I just shared this briefly before, because I work with my clients on the 7 levels of leadership, and there's a whole thing like, what does that mean? And a lot of them know wealth dynamics profiles, some know the spectrum. I've got the team archetypes, and then I've got, okay, what does this mean here? So if you are being asked to be like a level 4 integrated leader, if that's your position inside the company, and up further, way up here, there's all my levels of the business and so forth and what that means. And you are showing up in survivor mode, or you are kind of caught in your, so what we've got with one guy is a C-suite member is really struggling to move from being the player to the performer. He's struggling to establish a team. He's controlling it all. He's wanting to do it all himself. He excels at this, but he's actually got a position where he should be at green level. He should be this integrated level, balancing people and performance, creating that culture of shared systems. But he's not. He's stuck here. So I personally use it in a cross explanation, but that's how you can do it too. Like if you're being asked to run a team and yet you're showing up as the player, then you've got to do the work. You've got to establish your enterprise. You've got to set your team. It can't just be you, the superstar. And normally the reason they aren't moving from a mindset side, they want to be the special one. They want to get the approval. They want the recognition. But when you're at team, it's about your team. Again, team being the special ones, not the individual being the special one. So if you still have this internal subconscious desire to be recognized for every little success, they won't move up, because now they're sharing the wins with others. And there's so much in there. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else has used the spectrum. I love it. I do talk about it. I am a business coach as well as a leadership coach. So yeah. Does that help? Cool. Ross, what's your question before we move on?
Yeah, just coming back to the exercises that we did in the first session earlier today. Can you give us some practical tips on how those exercises might land with the group if you are very profile heavy, where the distinction between the profiles that the exercises are designed to kind of show don't really show up the same way? And also, if we're doing an exercise like that, and for whatever reason it does flop or there's a conflict in the team, do you have any practical tips on how we can navigate that from a facilitation perspective using the tools?
Which exercise are you talking about?
Well, for instance, when I can't remember what the title of it was, but there was the one before the potato exercise, where we divide the guys up and you see the way the different profiles will engage so that they have that realization for themselves of just how different it is. If you're doing an exercise like that in a team, that's 90% Lords, for instance, like the example used before, that distinction might not come across as profoundly for them.
This one, you mean?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
So what's your question? How do you recover from a
Yes,
fumble?
yeah, like if you have a very profile heavy group, would it still land the same way? Could we still make the point the same way in terms of teaching? But then yes, also if there is a failure, what are the recovery suggestions for those?
I get your question. It's probably in context of which exercise as to whether it land or not. Like the potato exercise and understanding that we all tune into a different frequency. Yeah, everyone will get that. And what's interesting is when I did a retreat with people and I actually did the potato exercise and it was Lords and Mechanics, and I was a little bit nervous about it because I'm a bit of a joker, right? The next day, the biggest Lord in the room turned up with this like Martian space helmet thing on. I don't know where he got it from. We were in the middle of nowhere. And yet he just, happened to be carrying that in his bag. And so he had a sense of humor. He loved it, right? And that's the thing. We don't want to be prejudiced against certain profiles because it says steel energy is more serious. Some of the steel energy people I know have the most wonderful sense of humor. It's more, don't force them to be an extrovert. Yeah. Don't misinterpret less of an expression as they're not enjoying it or they're not getting it, right? Because your dynamos are going to be more animated. Your blazers are going to be more chatty. So I think that's the first level of awareness. The next thing is if it flops, I don't know, again, which exercise? If you read through it and you do it, it's a fair chance it won't flop, right? It's when you go off script without having first done it with training wheels on that you have a higher risk of it flopping. So put the training wheels on the first few times that you do it. Then you can freeform a little more afterwards and you'll know the nuances because there will be enough learning in doing it by the book where you will see the interactions. You will see the way people respond and don't respond. That's your best learning. I mean, if something goes severely south, I don't know, I haven't had that happen. If something went severely south, like what's your worst story in your head, Ross? What would happen?
I don't really have one. I'm just thinking, for instance, maybe this is just my experience, but when I've been in the room when these exercises have been done, so I'm thinking maybe the car exercise might be the better one to use as an example. There's always been a very good balance of the profiles at the tables that I've been sitting at. So I was just thinking, for me, the benefit of those exercises was to hear from these folks how their articulation, their understanding is different. But if you've got many folks of the same profile, while they might have different understandings of what they're getting, it'll still be very heavy. And I was thinking, or maybe I'm assuming, that it wouldn't be as beneficial for them if they don't see the contrast with the other profiles around the table. So I just want them to
Yeah,
still be
I
able
know
to
what you
get the
mean
benefit
then.
of the exercise.
Yes, I understand. I think you might not get as big a wild contrast, but there still is. Like even if you had a room full of Lords and Mechanics, mechanics have got a lot of dynamo, right? Often more dynamo than they do steel. They're often more like a creator than that. If you've also got, say, lords and accumulators, then your accumulators have got more tempo. They're still going to be thinking about buying the minivan that can, carry all their friends like a trader would practically, versus our lords are probably going to buy a 2-seated something or other that no one else can sit in. So there's still enough of a difference. Just don't let yourself get worried about there's not as massive a one as you've experienced between if you've got a room of everyone. I think it's more probably don't underestimate the subtle significance of awareness that comes through these exercises.
That's helpful. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. What's Michael? What have you said? Chaos. An exercise that doesn't land well. Text. Yeah.
I'm
Yes,
writing.
true.
I'm hijacking Michael's. So, yeah. So I mean, if an exercise goes south, always remember it's more about the context as a facilitator, not the content. One of my biggest, challenges is actually to remind myself about I'm not here to always just teach people. It's about bringing them together and help them to communicate. And even if an exercise doesn't land 100% that I have planned, I still kind of, okay, what's the purpose of this exercise? Okay, so I can kind of stop them in the middle and then I can, okay, guys, let me just have a brief break. So if you scale this exercise between 1 and 10, what have you created this far? So it's kind of just stop it instead of trying to push it forward, even because as a facilitator, you will probably start having a hunch, oh no, this is going a bit south. So kind of having the courage to stop it.
Yeah.
And not trying to push it. Does it make sense, Ross? So, well,
I've probably done that once where I've gone, you know what? I've started you guys down this path of this exercise. I'm actually going to stop there. I think this is the wrong time to do it. I've done that once. Yeah. Good point. Okay. Any other random but related questions before I move on? It's good questions though. There's a lot, right? How are you all feeling? You good? Nice. Okay, let me find where I was on my slides. Now, this is going to be more of I'm going to show you and you can go and explore, right? Because if you're not, who here is a business coach as well? Yeah. Okay. Most others are focusing on the team and leadership side, right? And the impact that that has in business. Cool. So perfect. We are only going to spend the next 10 minutes on this then. We're not going to spend an entire hour and a half. So what is in the deck that Aditi will make sure you get as well is a little screenshot here of the summary of each level. Now, we'll make sure you get the whole report packs. I also would suggest that you go and watch the Wealth Lighthouse micro degree by Roger as well, where he's explaining that, because that is to the degree that most people will actually explain it. It's about, remember, the profiles is what position you play on the field. And coming back to your question, Clara, introducing the lighthouse or your statement is brilliant to do so that they're understanding there are levels at which you play the game. And so then when you are in talking with the business, you're like, so if you're going to have your players that are very autonomous. This is how we support them to stay there successfully. This is how we can support them to move up. If you're talking to a CEO of a business and they're in burnout, stress, overwhelm, questioning why they are still even running the business, then you can probably often what you'll see is, and one of my clients is like this, even though the business is at about 15 million, he's at green level. He's probably got one yellow level player. He thought all his next level of management were at yellow level until we started unpacking what that truly means and what expectations he should have of someone who is at yellow level, that we realized most of his people are actually at orange level. And so there's a gap. He's at green. And honestly, he's so smart. He should be, he should be moving to blue. But because there's a gap of yellow, he's getting pulled down to yellow level. And then he's getting frustrated because he's dealing with orange level. He's like, have to say everything, have to give direction. It's like, no, you don't. You actually need to restructure your business where you have yellow level players in your management team so that you are mostly spending your time with the yellow level team and they are managing the rest of the team. This comes into all sorts of business coaching discussions in terms of, well, what's the strategy? What's the financial situation? What's the capacity planning? What's the succession planning? In order to, you can't just hire new people if they don't have the cash flow there to do that, right? But it also comes into performance consulting in exactly like I said. If we're looking at, well, individuals at this level are not performing, yet I know they have the potential. Well, how is the rest of the organization and the team set up? Do we have a gap? Why is this person coming down to yellow? Is it because they need to learn the skills to let go and delegate and develop a team? Or do we actually not have any yellow players in there and that is causing a big problem? So then absolutely bringing the Wealth Lighthouse in is gold for helping leaders understand where they're at and the performance issues that can happen when you're not playing at the right level. Does that make sense? Trying not to repeat myself. Yeah, super powerful, right? In regards to that. Okay. Are we good if I move on? So, green level. Top 3 reasons that stop people from, or the excuses that they say why they can't go to green level. I can't find people who will do it like me. I can't afford good people. I'm too busy to find and train the right people. Okay. And it can feel extremely real, and it is real. But if we cannot step out of the busyness of the business to look at it from a higher level perspective, then this will always be the story that plays out. So the Wealth Lighthouse is that you can't solve the problems that you have coming from the same level of thinking that created them. In order to solve problems, you need to solve them from a higher level. Okay. And again, if we've got team issues, individual team issues, well, we've got to solve it by not being in amongst it, by taking that step back, looking at how do we set up our teams? What does performance mean at an individual level? Are our clarities of goals in sync with each other? These things we're going to unpack next week. So much around team performance and individual performance. But this is really good to have, because if your client is at green level or blue level, they're going to hit you with this kind of thinking, right? That you need to know what their individual problems are that you're helping them to solve, and how the application of the team and the talent dynamics work is going to solve those problems and not just be a feel-good experience for them, right? Unless, of course, you have a client with a budget and they just want to burn, then happy days. But once you do too many of those, you'll feel like it's not so fulfilling. The problem, doing it all yourself, right? That's the number one problem. Become a yellow-headed octopus, 8 arms, and everything sucks. That's often what the yellow-headed octopus is feeling like. So how do we move up to green level successfully? First, you have to define the roles. And I mean truly define roles. Don't just write a spiffy job description. Honestly, the most powerful job descriptions that I help my clients with have 5 things on them. Here's the top 5 roles and functions that this position is responsible for. And then here's the KPI that we can measure success on. It is not a list of this attribute and that attribute and, accounts payable and accounts receivable, whatever it might be. It's 5 things that position is responsible for. And it is surprising how many organizations the boss thinks everyone is clear. I did this with a client where I said, do you have job descriptions that I can see? Because I'm kind of a bit confused with what some people are saying. This person's doing this is doing this. You call them that, you call them that. I said, can I just see what they are so I understand what your expectations are of them? And they said, oh, we don't have them. I said, okay. He said, we probably should have them. Well, let's do that as an exercise. This was the client. It'll probably take half an hour for each person. We'll just get them to say what their top 5, because I said, even the top 5. He said, we'll get them to say what their top 5 things are. And I thought, well, I'm starting to think this is not going to be a 30-minute thing. But I said, okay, 30 minutes, sure. We'll do it now, hey? And 3 hours later, what had come out was what he thought he was clear on that role, the expectation of that role was, and what the individual thought and what others in the team thought were actually 3 different things. And so when you start unpacking, what makes your leader the CEO of the client that you're working with, and you ask this, and you ask to actually see it, and you ask when was the last time that the team saw this, and if I went to them and said, tell me the top 5 things on your job description that's expected of you, would they answer these things? If not, well, and you want to do some consulting work, jump on in. But otherwise you're indicating to them they need to go and do that, right? How also do you get to green? Client segmentation and offer. This means, let me actually say that in a way that is easier to remember. You need to productize, right? You need to have a product that is not dependent on you, or products, let's say you're wanting to be at green level in a consulting business. You have products that other people can deliver, or that is highly leveraged in time and technology as well, right? Part of my green level strategy for the business is I also get success fees. So I'm showing up at yellow level currently to deliver those, but some of the success fees that we've agreed upon are nice, right? So if it doesn't happen, then I'm okay. But if they happen, then my net wealth can jump up very, very quickly, right? You also need to make sure the business model has the cash and the resources there to afford a team and a quality team. Yeah. Sometimes it's, one person at yellow level at the right skill set will beat 5 of your team that don't have the right skill set. But then there's also times if you've got too many yellow level players and not enough orange level workers, depending on the industry, then you can have too many chiefs, right? Not enough people prepared to do the doing. I've seen people try and hire too heavy in the leadership team. Then everyone just sits there telling people what to do and no one actually gets stuff done. So there's a balance. Green level needs to have a rhythm. The biggest thing here is starting to work to a schedule so that there is consistency. The team know that every Wednesday at 10 a.m. there is a team meeting with the ops team. The marketing team knows that on Tuesday at 9:30 every morning there is a marketing meeting. And it starts on time, it finishes on time, and it's the same time every week. When you're at yellow level, it's like, no, I don't want to talk to anyone today. I won't schedule any calls. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to do this, do whatever I want. Green level, you got to show up for your team, right? Consistently, yes. So it's about having schedule. The 3 steps: establish your enterprise. We've gone over these, right? What does that actually mean? So when you're establishing your enterprise, these screenshots are taken from the pre-flight checklist. The pre-flight checklist is pre-flight checklist. We'll get you a copy of it. My gosh, Roger's work needs honestly a 3-week full-time performance consulting program to teach it, right? I've pitched that to him back in 2015 and it didn't land. So I'm going to give you the top level. Pre-flight checklist is exactly what it sounds like. Before you get on a plane, you want to make sure the pilot has gone through their pre-flight checklist. He knows where he's going. The plane is in sound working order. The tires, the landing gear has been checked. The this has been checked. The that has been checked. In business, it's the same. The pre-flight checklist is something that initially you want to do once a quarter. You definitely want to do it once a year. It is in the Millionaire Master Plan micro degree. Aditi, if you don't mind getting Melissa to send the link to the Millionaire Master Plan micro degree and specifically the pre-flight checklist from memory. It's been a year since I've been in there. I think it's step 6. So in order to set your enterprise up properly, you need to have a unique enterprise promise. This comes back to the purpose, the thing we spoke about on day 1. What is the purpose of the enterprise? You need to have a business model that means you can afford a leadership team, right? And you need to have a team charter that says, all right, crew, this is where we're going. These are our revenue goals. These are our product goals. These are our all financial goals. These are our goals in customer service in all the different areas of the business. And that it's broken down into 90-day runs, 90-day plans that then have milestones and clarity of exactly what we're doing. The third part is that you've got an empowered leadership team, right? That is going to lead others So you're a part of that leadership team, but you have a leadership team that can lead others. That's truly at green level. The second part of green level is refining your rhythm. And here it's having an annual rhythm of reviewing and renewing. Again, go into the micro degree, have a look at that. But this is essentially, say, you maybe will have an annual leaders retreat where you're setting the year's goals. Then you've got 90-day meeting or retreat that you're setting the quarterly goals. You shouldn't be changing the year's vision and strategy unless something indicates we need to adapt. What the rhythm does is it stops people from feeling like, hang on, I thought we were focusing on this. Now we're focusing on that because the CEO has got the next great idea that he can't wait to get the team actioning on, but they haven't finished actioning on the last idea and plan. So the rhythm is there's a time and a place to do it. I do an annual retreat with clients where we are mapping out the annual OKRs, and then each quarter they're setting what the quarterly focus is on the OKRs, and we're cascading that through. So there's a very clear rhythm. You have a flight deck. This means how you're going to measure. I've kind of spoken about this one here. Sorry, you have a rhythm that keeps you in flow, while the team has a weekly and daily rhythm that keeps each member in flow. Next week, I'm going to share with you the focus and flow that I created. It's essentially inspired by Rogers, but because I do a lot of work on the 5 energies, it has my spin on it as well, but it will answer that there. It's got boards and everything that people can use, and it's got the method really mapped out. The flight deck with all measures and milestones, that's essentially the dashboard, whether it's as simple as a spreadsheet or it's fancy, BI software or in whatever platform you're using, but so that you know what the targets are, what the actuals are, how you're tracking. So that's what refining your rhythm is all about. When you get into, teams doing identifying blocks to flow, or what does success look like, they're going to talk about some of this stuff naturally, right? Like, we don't know what our targets should be, or so-and-so always changes their mind and we can't keep up. Those things are going to come out. These are going to be some of your answers to solving those problems, right? Either completely stepping them through it or saying, okay, you guys need to have a rhythm, and then let them figure out what the rhythm is. The final things here is synchronizing your steps. This is the third strategy at green level. Now you're starting to get to what you are familiar with. You have an understanding of your profiles and your strengths. And it makes sure we've got the right people in the right positions, right? We're aware of the stage of the enterprise that we're in. We haven't gone through that one yet. And we're keeping to a frequency of action that suits the stage. The stages I have added into this deck. So when Melissa sends them to you, the 8 stages of an enterprise go, and we'll touch on these as we go through some stuff next week too, but it starts at proof of concept at yellow level, all the way around green and blue level. I have added in here the purple vector cards. When you get your pack, this is what they show up. So here it says, so at proof of concept stage, which is most people on this call, not everyone. So proof of concept is, a product or service bought at a profitable price with enough future orders in a strong existing market to ensure ongoing earnings. This is proof of concept. Proof of concept, anything prior to this is an idea. not a business, an idea. This is the first stage of a business. The pre-stage, this is what I'd like to do, but no one's paying me money for it yet. That is called an idea and potentially an expensive hobby, right? It becomes a business when you have people paying you money for it. Each profile kind of has a different energy. This is the home of the creator, right? So this is just of interest. It goes through everyone here. So, you know, brand attraction, this is where the star really comes into play, because it sits on this part here, which is where the star sits. And you can see here, the creator needs to be innocent. The creator needs to go, I can now let go of my creation and let the star, someone else or my secondary wing actually go out there and shine a light on that product, shine a light on the solution that it offers. And the star shines, it gets the attention, right? So if you're just starting out, you might be doing both. So for me, I consciously go, when am I, right now I'm in creator mode. I'm powering out creation, left, right, and center. But then I need to stop. And I need to go into my star wing, right? Or I have others that take on that. I actually do have others that are stars that are great referrers for me and shine the light on me. But this just shows you what each profile kind of is, energy needs to be in at that stage of the business. It's a lot to unpack there as well, but they are there. You can start having a look at them. That's what it means, synchronizing the steps. So first level is at a personal level with profiles. Second level is at the business level, like what stage is it at? And the third level is what's the stage of the industry, right? And managing it via the seasons. For example, there's a lady here who owns a e-commerce swimwear company, and sales go through the roof, obviously in spring and summertime. And so she has all year round sales, but in our autumn and winter, she focuses on the Northern Hemisphere markets. So that she is setting up the business to always have that revenue in. Otherwise, it's a big revenue and then nothing, you know, or lower in those months. A client of mine, they are organic fertilizers and soil supplements. When it rains a lot, then they need the fertilizer in, right? So those supplements are high. That's the time to fertilize, have it watered. And what happens is the farmers' grasses grow, so they don't need the livestock supplements. So when it rains, soil supplements go high, livestock supplements and feed go low. When it's dry, it goes the other way. The livestock supplements go high and the soil supplements go low. So their business is very dictated by the seasons, and even inside of those seasons, whether it rains or not. So at a strategic level, at green level, we have to make sure that their plans are in sync with that their team is also very aware of it. You know, so that's kind of it, like true seasons, but it can also be, is the information age of coaches and consultants coming to an end? Are we in winter? because technology is coming? Are we actually in winter where it's consolidating? Or does it still feel like spring? It's confusing, right? Because there's more content out there on the internet than ever by coaches. You'd almost think it's summer. And they're using technology to actually do that. I think we're in the final days of summer. I think it will then come into winter, and those without substance will have burnt out, and that is left will survive. So you're looking at your industry in terms of the overarching cycle that it goes through. And then it will emerge again. It'll be back in spring and summer. And it's whether you can survive throughout those different times, right? So this is hopefully interesting to understand where your clients are at, what type of problems they might have when they are putting up on the board what their blocks to flow and everything are. I'm not going to go through these. There's a do's and a don'ts at every level. We do not need to do that today. We'll just be talking at you more. But please take the time to go and have a look at that information, to think, okay, what can I be expecting when my clients are doing blocks, when they're doing some of the activities we're going to do next week as well. That being said, we will kick off next week with looking at some of the top problems of your customers from the context of what you've learned so far. So we will go into the Miro board. By all means, you can go in and do it before we meet next week. You've got the link. You can go and put your own colored post-its on what you see, 3 to 5 of your clients' top problems are. And we'll see where that fits in the wealth spectrum, so that when we're doing next week's activities, I'll be able to help you relate back how those activities are solving those problems. If you don't do it between now and then, we will take 5-10 minutes on Monday to do that. Another big information session, hey? I'm going to come around to everybody, and if you've got questions, please type them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to come around and get what your key takeaways have been from a session I absolutely love, this wealth spectrum and understanding it in personal and business. So powerful. Keen to hear how you see you can apply it, either for yourself or with your clients. Let's come to Zoe first.
那他现在是要我分享今天收获总结。好，就是我觉得他刚有讲到一段话，就是每个位阶要往上升的时候都会比较辛苦。然后我现在就是从黄色到绿色，我觉得这一路上也不太好走。然后再来是，我其实很困惑，我以为今天的课程大家是原本都准备好的。
你这段要我翻是不是？你确定？
好，不要好了。
好，because in today's course you mentioned one paragraph say every level when they face to the next level, it will be lots of difficulty they need to face to. Now for her, when she upgrade from yellow to green, she really faced so many different situations and very struggle. So yeah, she has the same feeling. Yes.
Yeah. And it's a choice, right? You learn what you need to grow into that, or you choose to stay at yellow. Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, Zoe. Grace, let's come to you.
Then 2.
Yeah.
Same feelings.
我现在在也是绿到蓝的阶段，我也是很辛苦，因为我觉得越上面的财富位阶的人，其实能量越强，然后你要沟通谈判的时候，尤其是跟很多绿色人类对话的时候，他们有很多自己的意见，然后很难就是沟通协调，然后就觉得很耗能这样子。
Yeah, because now she's in blue, and then when she upgrade from green to blue, she has same problem like Zoe. She need to face to so many different problems, and especially when she face to green people, and then green people green level has lots of their opinion and need to be negotiate, communicate, lots of work need to do. She thinks it's very fun and interesting, but also difficult too.
Okay. Oh, I'd love to unpack that with you, but we won't right now, Grace. But yeah. Well, it starts with awareness, right? All right, let's come, Stephen. What's been your key takeaway?
Just backing up the importance of the project that I'm doing, because like when you said about the different levels and what your ideal client is, and where you think like the whole reason I'm targeting like the kind of personal and infrared to start is because if you don't do those things at that level, like measure your money, and now in my bank account everything goes into separate buckets each month, so I don't even see the total in there and that. But unless you do these things, it's so easy just to go back into that, because you're at a level, you get another project, everything's okay, but then something suddenly changes, or somebody moves a job role or something like that, and that's when you realize you go back down. But then when you find out you're autistic, I mean, I don't know ever going to know what it's going to be like to give birth, right? So I'm not even going to try and understand that.
Autistic, that's because you're a man.
Exactly, but if you're not autistic, then that's why the victim level is so different for people like autistic people. As I said, only 1 in 5 are in any form of employment. So that's why what I'm doing, and just kind of doing things that make it a lot more accessible to autistic people to do the victim levels and that. So making it easier, like trying to go on Genius U and find the things, they're gone already. So that's
not
my
easy
biggest
for
takeaway.
Me, and I've been there since.
Well, but then that's where
birth.
every disabled adaptation has helped everyone else. So again, I know this is the problem. This is why, to be honest, the ableism thing. People go, oh well, there's a problem. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to know what it's like to be pregnant. Please don't tell me what it's going to be like to be autistic, because nobody, and that's where I see the value here. So
yeah. So it's brilliant. So that's where you don't want people to tell you what it's like. You just want people to see if they can support you to do your mission. Where there's opportunities.
Yeah, but when like you said earlier, just go and get a job, do this thing. Like it's so far away from that actually helping anyone. That's what I'm saying. So anyway, but you're
I get it.
An idea. Well, you won't, because you haven't seen what I'm doing yet, so you won't get it until next week. So that's what I'm saying. Please, all this time when people go, I get it, they don't. That's the whole thing. That's the key.
Yeah,
anyway.
But that's why we need people like you, so that
Exactly.
the 10% doesn't get lost. But the other 90% can go and get a job.
Okay, well, that's just being ableist then, really, isn't it? But if that was true, then the figures, we've got to have some critical thinking here. There's a reason why only 1 in 5 autistic people are in any form of employment. It's not because we're lazy, or
I'm talking about the non-autistic people, Stephen.
Well, yeah, well, I'm not. I know, but we'll help them anyway as well. But yeah, okay.
Yes, of course.
I get defensive.
Fabulous. Well, we're glad you're the man that's on the mission, right? You're the man that's on the mission, and you're going to do great things. I love it. Michael and Linda, let's come to you.
Yeah, well, I'll take it that the problem starts with the leader. Solve out its problem, and it's going to be easier because it gets a ripple effect through the organization. So I could definitely buy that that yeah, start with that. Otherwise, it's just putting a band-aid on a company. And also that different levels speaks a different language. So you need to learn that language in order, and don't expect infrared to be on yellow or green level. And you cannot force someone to jump a step, because it's gonna notice. So with own experience, yeah, it's heavy to lift other people up. And especially if they're not ready, they need to have another pathway. So that was getting clear to do it and to explain it to other people as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep it simple. You know, I've spent a lot of time giving you guys a lot of information. There's even more, but keep bringing it back to the simple purpose of it. It's where are we at? It's not are we on the spectrum of wealth spectrum, it's where are we, and what should we be focusing on to make that successful and to move up if we want to. Yeah. You can adapt it into your models of working as well. Like Roger's language there is very business enterprise focused as well, but you can adapt that into an investment.
And it is so interesting.
You know,
I mean,
type of investment.
yeah, and we've been with you guys so many years now, and every time we hear, especially about the lighthouse and all of the different levels and you know the flight deck, there's always new things that pops. Yes, you know, like now I get it. And then when you think you get it, there's always a new twist on it. Okay, there's another one. So it's very interesting. So, and I'm really happy because one of my purposes by joining this is actually to find new ideas and inspiration, adding new elements in the training as well to help people to, you know, leverage their wealth. And what I'm so happy today is that found new ways to, you know, adapting the lighthouse into what we're doing, explanation, new wordings. So it feels like I'm getting a new smorgasbord of different, you know, goodies to pick from, new exercises, new sayings. So thank you for that.
Good. Pleasure. Clara.
Okay, two things. First, I feel like I'm doing a puzzle. Okay, so I knew I had a flow consultant and a lot of information. I actually saw a recording of 2022's performance consultant certification, and so I feel like you know, I've done the borders like most people who do the puzzles start with, and then I'm sort of putting the pieces in. And it's amazing the level of detail that's coming up and the new things that your preconceived idea of what it is didn't see to start with. And there's so many nuances that can be added. So that's one insight. The second insight, and it's because we're in this group and we have some people who need a translator. Made me think about me in a setting of a client where there will be people who will hear what I say, like the people who need translation. And I will be listening to them and I'll be listening, and it's very important to be aware of those differences and make sure there's always an interpreter, which should be you, the facilitator, to always make sure that you're translating it into the person's language so that we speak in their language and not try them to get to speak in ours.
My South African clients also sometimes feel that they need an interpreter from Australian English to South African English. That's the accent. Thank you, Clara. Yes, you're seeing now that this is not two-dimensional, it's multi-dimensional. When you start learning the frameworks as individual things, it's kind of two-dimensional. And then we go to how does all that work together? What do we use when? How does it help? And that's mastery, right? You get there through application of it. So that's exciting. Who haven't I come to? Kim.
Okay, Kim, wait a moment. Because his takeaway today is, give me a second. Because today you mentioned somebody wanna jump, go to like let's say go to from green to blue. They wanna skip one from yellow to blue. They wanna skip like a green, and then they will like the foundation won't be like stable, and then the reason why they want to jump just skip the green because they want to free them. No, the reason why they want to free them. Now last year, Kim's company is like in yellow, but he want to jump from yellow to blue, so he faced the same situation too. So he since it failed, and then he went back and look all about his foundation, all about his company problem. So even he go back to the infrared, but because he has the root from like a red to green, so he go back to green very quickly, like you mentioned today. So he has a he has a strong feeling about today's sharing. So that's his takeaway.
Nice. Great. Thank you, Kim. And I would just add to that, when can you go from yellow to blue in a business is if there is enough, I mean, you can't actually forget that. You can go from green to blue where pretty quickly. The quickest way to go from green to blue is when there's enough cash to hire another CEO that you purely become an investor in the business. That you actually aren't the operating CEO, you're the investor. So that's not yellow to blue, sorry, that's green to blue quickly. Yeah. Bally, let's come to you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for today. I mean, there was so much in today's session. So yeah, proof of concept stuck out for me. Otherwise, it continues remaining, a conceptual idea. It's not there until it's been tested by the market. The other thing that really stood out is when there's gaps, when as a leader, they may be in a certain level, but they're coming down to basically the factory floor, and then actually having to see what's going on with their teams. I've seen this with individuals I speak with. So this is amazing because there's a whole gap there that they've not identified. So yeah, thank you.
And it's a huge one to help them solve as well. Fantastic. Ross.
My biggest takeaway is actually something pertaining to a project that I'm working on, and you've been touching on it a fair bit in this last while of the differences between green and blue and some of the technicality there. You said something interesting earlier where at green you are managing a leadership team that is also managing other folks within the team. And I used to think of that as more blue level, but I'm realizing that there's levels there as well, and what exactly distinguishes those. The context of it is that there's a blue level business that I'm starting a project with where I'm coming in at yellow level to essentially create a green level skin for what they're doing. It's a fintech SaaS. So we're building a skin for that will be its own entity that I would see functioning at green with a capacity to go to blue itself. But now I'm playing around with what exactly this means. I think it's going to be a green for a lot longer, and I need to learn about how to really stabilize that green there as well.
Well, and also just get real, like it's like you go through the 8 stages where it's proof of concept, but You might kind of assume positions of yellow, green, and blue, but until the company itself is turning a profit, then the company itself is probably at infrared or yellow. But we don't really measure the company by whether it's at infrared or yellow. It is what level is the enterprise at. If you're able to do yellow and green level things because you've got private money being injected into it, then yes, you're starting at that level, right? But at some point, if it doesn't actually stand on its own 2 feet and generate cash flow and then generate profit, either those investors will disappear or they'll start calling in loans and stuff like that, right? So you want to work with the 8 stages of the enterprise in that situation.
It's helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, lovely people. Thank you for your time and attention today. I'm glad that it has been helpful to you, and looking forward to next week where we're truly stepping into high-performing teams. And all of this, I'm sure you're going to marinate on it over the weekend about what it means for you in your businesses and who your clients are. So if you have questions that come up, just post them in the WhatsApp chat, and happy to, shoot a reply. Not a problem. So take care, and I will see you on Monday. Thanks. Bye.